Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Today's episode, Built to Fit, Designing a Life That Doesn't Fold Under Pressure.
Welcome to the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast with Scott Whitwam, your blueprint to financial abundance. Settle in as we explore the mindset and methods for wealth building through real estate.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Whitwam, and today's episode is Built to Fit, Designing a Life That Doesn't Fold Under Pressure. Let's be frank with ourselves. A lot of people aren't living lives that actually fulfill them. They're living lives that others expect them to live, designed to fulfill someone else's timeline, measured by others' definition of success. Eventually, a life like this will start to fold under pressure. But what if your goal wasn't to build the most impressive life? What if the goal was to build the life you were intended to live, one that brings you joy, satisfaction, and abundance? Today, we're going to talk about how to do that. All right, so let's start off. Number one, the problem with a life that folds under pressure: too many people are living what could be called a folding life. From the outside appearance, everything looks great. You know, you may have a good business, a good job, a busy schedule. You may be managing responsibilities and keeping up with all of your commitments. But on the inside, you're experiencing constant pressure. This could be caused by building a life requiring someone to be something that they really are not. Maybe you have felt this before, right? Where you say things that you really don't want to say, right? You want to say no, but you say yes. You stay busy because slowing down makes you feel uncomfortable. You chase goals that don't actually make you happy, feeling exhausted even when things are going very good. That's what happens when a life is built around, expectations instead of alignment. When life's challenges comes, and they will, you feel stressed, unable to, cope with setback, and the system that you have built collapses. But this doesn't have to, because, there are alternatives. And it doesn't happen just because you're weak. There's a lot of strong people that experience this same kind of folding experience. This occurs because the structure you created wasn't built for you. A fit life is very different. A life that is built fit is built around your energy, your values, and your priorities. This type of life can endure pressure when pressure shows up. You may bend, but your life doesn't fold. It doesn't collapse in. So let's talk about the second thing here. What a life that fit actually looks like. You see, there's a lot of preconceptions of what everybody's life should look like. TV promotes it, the movies tell you what it should be like, family pressure, societal pressure. But a life that is built fit isn't necessarily an easy life, but it is a life that feels lighter. Here are a few signs that you're building a fit life. First, your values guide your decisions. You're not constantly asking, what will people think about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it? Instead, you ask, does this task, does this endeavor or engagement, does it align with the kind of life I want to build? Second, your schedule supports your vision and well-being. Every day is not going to be perfect. However, your life includes space for, rest, creativity, relationships, growth, and God. The reality is that looking successful without enjoyment or room to relax may appear to be successful from some strange measured device, but is it true success if you're stressed out, if you're unhappy, and if you're stuck? Third, you need to learn how to measure progress differently. Instead of chasing constant accolades and pats on the back, design your life to focus on things like strength of mind, emotional health, meaningful engagements, and time for people that you care about. In other words, stop building a life that just looks good and start building one that fulfills you. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about building the life that you were intended to live, the plan that God has for you. All right, my third segment here is about why some people struggle to build a life that fits. I see people that are constantly just trying to adjust, trying to find this life that will make them happy. If when I talk about this, it sounds simple, it might make you wonder, why don't more people take action to live more fulfilled lives like this? One of the biggest reasons is fear. Fear stops everything in somebody's life because fear causes you to do a permanent pause and permanently pause from something. It leads to procrastination. It leads to bad decisions. Fear of falling behind, fear of disappointing others, fear of stepping away from the crowd, and safety that is found in the group mentality where everybody thinks the same. See, there's something worth remembering here. The world always wants to keep you one step below where it is. In fact, as it reminds me of a story that I was told from one of my mentors one time about lobster fishermen. And he said that lobster fishermen, when they go out and they fish and they pull up a pot and they catch a lobster, they put it in the lobster holding bin. But the thing is you can't let that lobster just be in that holding bin until you catch the next one. Somebody has to stand there and watch it, or the lobster will actually crawl out of the bin and get back into the ocean. But once you put 3, 4, 5, 6 lobsters in that bin, nobody has to watch the lobsters anymore. And the reason for that is when a lobster starts to climb out, to get above, to go beyond the other lobsters that are in the pen, what happens? The other lobsters pull him back. And that's the way a lot of times it is for us in life. When we start to go beyond our friends, to find success, start to have enjoyment that they're not having, what happens? They try to pull us back down. They don't know that they're doing it. It's just they try to pull us back to where they are. They want us to come back to their reality. Most people find true fulfillment in rewriting their scripts, though. Their script of destination for failure, right? We want to rewrite that one. Rewrite it into a blockbuster movie built to fit your destiny. Building a life that fits may require you to make some changes. Set out life boundaries, redefine what success means, and even slow down when others are speeding up. Making the transition will likely feel uncomfortable. A friend of mine once said to me, he says, growth happens in the area of discomfort. From my time in playing sports, I know this to be true. We used to say it this way: no pain, no gain. To be successful in that arena, we had to feel the discomfort of stretching ourselves, of going beyond. But strangely enough, when you stretch yourself by being calm or from being overly active, it will stretch you in a different way. Your mind will be stretched to relax, to slow down, to breathe and relax. It can be just as hard for someone to go calm as for the athlete to go all out. The discomfort may just be a sign that you're making progress. All right, fourth, there are 3 ways to start building a life that fits. If you want to begin designing a life that truly fits you, start with these 3 questions. First, what is truly important to you right now? Sometimes we call this our why. But right now, we need to determine what our why is. Not what it was 10 years ago, not what it might be in the future, but what is our why right now? Why do we want to do what we do the way that we do it now? And not what our friends or family care about or believe it should be for us. Not what is trendy or on social media. What matters to you today? Your clarity will begin with knowing your why. The thing that is important to you is the thing that you must center and focus on. Second, what thing or things in my life feel out of sorts? Sometimes the clear signal that something is out of alignment is the turmoil and discomfort that it brings. Pay attention to what you're doing that drains you. Remember, it is not the discomfort that identifies what's wrong, but rather it's the thing that steals your peace, your vision, and your joy. Thirdly, identify one small change that would help you change your outlook on your future. You don't need to redesign everything overnight. However, I'm a pull the bandage off fast kind of person. Not everybody is, though. But I much rather just get the pain over quickly and deal with the ramifications of it. But you must be able to live with the speed of your change. Often building a life that's fit may begin with a single honest adjustment, like protecting your time, changing a routine, saying no more often, or giving yourself permission to want something different. Every small decision and every change will compound upon itself. As I close, I want you to think about this. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to build the busiest life, the most impressive life, or even the most productive life. The goal is to build a life God designed for you and the one that supports your life's vision. How about taking a moment today and ask yourself, am I building a life that's fit or one that folds? Remember, you have the power to redesign it. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Share this with another investor friend who needs to hear what we talked about today. That's all for this episode. Thanks for joining this episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast. Be sure to check out our previous episodes related to real estate investing topics. I'm glad you're part of our growing real estate investing community. You can always find the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcast. This is Scott Whitwam. Be sure to join me on the next episode of the Whitwam Wealth Real Estate Podcast, where we're wealth building through real estate.